Hello and welcome back to the continual build of the Jungmeister RC plane. And here we're looking at the cowl area of the model, and it's a little bit of a problem in the sense that it's a cavernous space that looks odd even with the engine installed, a DLE 20. There's a lot of space there that just isn't prototypical, and I had intended embarking on building a scratch-built seven-cylinder radial engine. However, a fellow modeller, Dave Slasser, has come to my rescue, and on my return from holidaying in Holland, he presented me with this seven-cylinder 3D printed engine in a striking, as it happens for Holland, a really appropriate colour, orange. That will of course be painted, and it doesn't purport to be a perfect copy of the engine found in the Jungmeister, but it's a great starting point. And what I propose to do is to begin installing this into the cowl to fill this space, which at the moment just looks rather ridiculous, but even if I did little more than spray this and dry brush it silver, it would be a vast improvement on the empty space. So that's what I'm about to start doing. Well, as you can see, the bright orange of the material used to form this 3D printed engine has disappeared under a gungy coat of black paint. That was necessary apart from the aesthetics, because I understand that there's my little cat. I understand that the material itself isn't UV fast, so it needs to be painted and sealed. However, this black, when it does dry, you can see it's still wet, will be very dead, and I want to bring a little bit of life to the engine by doing dry brush technique, which I'll demonstrate when this is dried up and we can move on a little bit further. Well, I've commenced some of the painting on this radial engine, and I thought I'd share with you how I'm going about it. On the actual Jungmeister prototype, there's a ring which I take to be an exhaust ring that goes around the front. I think I'm going to leave that off. I may change my mind. Modellers are allowed to change their mind as often as my wife changes her mind about the shoes she's going to wear, so that might change. But what I wanted to do is demonstrate the dry brush technique. Now, as the clue's in the name, it's about using the minimum amount of paint to produce the maximum effect. And you can see here that 5 of the cylinders have been painted a matte black, and these upper 2 cylinders now appear more in keeping with what I eventually want it to look like. And what I've used is, I'm using Vallejo water-based paints for that, and I'm using oily steel, which I'm going to dry brush, and I've also used this ink, which is actually gold, to do a wash over the front part of the engine housing. Now, because the black's underneath, you don't actually get a gold effect, but on the exhaust stacks you get a sort of heat-induced patina, which I think looks quite effective, and it makes it stand out from the rest of the engine. So here we go. I'll show you how I go about doing this. It's all one-handed, so you can imagine it's rather fiddly. So a little bit of paint, and I find it best if you use a flat brush, or this one's a chiselled edged brush, far better than a round one. And as you would imagine, it's about taking the paint and then wiping the majority of it off, so there's just some left on, and then you apply this with very light strokes to the model. And what you'll find is the paint is left behind, but only on the raised surfaces. So all the black that lies below still comes through between the grills. And it's best to try and do this not in one go, but to let it dry, which doesn't take long, and then come back to it and add further coats. And that's how I've done the cylinder heads of these two pots here. Now, to make the rocker covers and the arms stand out more, I've then actually applied some enamel paint, and I believe this is actually aluminium, but it's got much more of a sheen than the Vallejo paint, so it stands out quite effectively. I've put in what simulates the plugs, white with a little red end, and I'll actually put some wire onto them as well. But I think I might just stick with this. It's going to have to be cut out here to allow for the actual engine, because it wouldn't pass through that aperture there. But I think you're getting a feel of what this thing will look like inside that sort of cavernous cowl that it goes with. Well, there you go. I'm calling that done for now. We'll see what it looks like in the cowl once the engine's installed. But thanks again to a fellow club member for printing this off. With a little bit of work, I think it looks quite presentable, and it certainly looks better than the cavernously empty cowling as it would have been. So pleased with that. Onwards and upwards.